Welcome back to the pod. This is Jeff Rosales. Today, I am honored to sit down with a leader whose life embodies culture, community, and service. Dr. Robert A. Morgan is a cybersecurity architect and U.S. Navy veteran with over 14 years of experience in secure systems, software engineering, and risk management. He holds a doctorate in cybersecurity and blends his technical expertise with a deep passion for the arts. As the founder of Dancing Veterans San Diego, a nonprofit offering free Latin dance classes to veterans and their families, Dr. Morgan promotes healing, connection, and community. His mission bridges the digital and human experience, building secure systems by day and strengthening lives through movement and music by night. He leads with service, creativity, and purpose. Dr. Robert A. Morgan, welcome to the pod.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you. And welcome. Great seeing everyone. Great me talking to everyone.
Absolutely. How was your New Year's?
I was a fantastic one, kind of rung it in, dancing, of course. And from there, the classes kind of just took off. We started real well, and keeping the dancing going, So
Absolutely. Well, I have to say, I kept it not dancing. I kind of had a little too much dancing in 2025, so I kind of kept it a little low key myself. So didn't do too much. It was rainy, as you know, here in San Diego. So I kept it very low key. Didn't do too much in that sense. But I'm looking forward to definitely getting to know the whole dancing scene and all what's going on here in 2026. And I know that's something that you focus on specifically. But before we get to all your creativity and all the amazing things you're doing, let's kind of talk a little bit about your background. So tell us a little about where you grew up.
So I grew up in the best country in the world, Jamaica. So I grew up in Kingston, not the streets of Kingston, Jamaica, but I grew up in the suburbs, kind of like the ghetto, borderline ghetto. And I was very sheltered to a degree. But in Jamaica, we dance for everything. So I was sheltered to a degree. I had amazing parents and an amazing family, and so they kind of led me and guided me throughout, the first part of my journey.
Yeah, I mean, some of the best musicians and artists come from Jamaica, so that's no surprise there. So did you grow up playing any sports or any instruments growing up?
Yeah, so growing up, we all learned to play the drums. I forgot what they call it. There's a specific, we call it the drums in Jamaica, but there's a specific name that it's called here in the States. So the long one with the goat skin. So we all grew up playing that. It's a part of our culture, traditions that date back all the way to Africa. So it's an innate nature for them to pass on such knowledge and the beats and all of that. Along with that, my parents are both very educated folks, and my dad especially wanted to push me into learning more about music and all that stuff. So I did some piano classes, guitar classes, did a lot of dancing of various styles at summer camps growing up. But that's as far as it goes. We have our own little style down in Jamaica, based on our culture, the culture that's passed down to us. And as far as sports, I am a jack of all trades. I played basketball, cricket, volleyball, soccer. Ended up being a professional track runner for about 2.5 years, and track was what brought me to the States. And that was the little piggyback I used, track and my education, to kind of take me to the States. And from there, here we are.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love that. I think sports is a great way to do team building, and the arts. It definitely helps a lot with performance in the business and organizational sectors as well. And it's also a form of leadership, and it's great that you've got some exposure to that. I think I played like one instrument, which was the violin. I think it lasted about a year. After that, I just went back to sports. So when I was growing up, and especially growing up in Fresno, so you got to the States, you got there on a scholarship. I guess it sounds like you were on a scholarship,
Yeah, I was
going
on a
into
track
this
scholarship.
to the States. So then you grew up here, and then I'm curious how you went from sheltered kid to joining the world's greatest military, the United States Navy.
There's one part I kind of forgot in my little spiel. So I actually was forced to join the military when I was in high school. So I also played the instruments there. I was a part of the drum corps there. I was a side drummer, a bass drummer, and I played the bugle. So I was forced to join the military. It kind of became so at the age of 10 to about 19, I was in the military while going to high school, playing sports, participating in life, and all that good stuff. I was a part of what's called the Jamaica Combined Cadet Force. Yeah. And
Oh,
so,
is
yeah,
that a requirement from Jamaica that all the youth have to enter some type of military service?
no, it's not. It was never a requirement. It was a requirement by my father because
There it is.
he
Okay.
said, "You wanted to be a man, you're going to learn today." And so what happened was when I started high school, I was 10 years old and I was a tiny little bug. And they used to flip me upside down every day and get my lunch money on me. So one day I just went up, found the biggest guy in the grade 10 block and beat the smack out of him. And, I ended up fighting this other guy in my class and I beat him up so bad that my dad kind of got involved. I was very close to being expelled. And my dad said, "Don't expel him. We'll teach him a lesson." And it was life changing. So from there, the military has been a part of my life because my dad also raised us semi-military, and came to the U.S., finished school, finished my undergrad. I was working for a very long time and living in the Midwest. I had it was still very young, early in my time here in the States. My accent was very heavy and I was still early on in my career. And so in the Midwest, can I say this without getting canceled? Looking like me, sounding like me, it there was no advantage for me to progress in my career. And so I had the chance to meet with a mentor that I met through when I was a Rotarian, and he was a Turkish Jew who was in the world's greatest Marine Corps. So he was a Marine for 6 years. Was in the same position as I was. He was very far along in his career, but living in the Midwest, things just weren't adding up. And so someone advised him to join the military also. He passed that. He did it, left the Marine Corps, did 6 years, got out, came back, and his life changed. And so he gave me the same advice. I didn't take it. I said, I won't do that. And 2 months later, I ended up getting a call from the recruiter. Said, okay, I'll do it. So,
Marines do have a great way to influence people, Robert. I hate to tell you, a lot of folks, can thank the Marine Corps. You can make fun of us and crayons and eating crayons all you want, but I'm telling you, we just have a great. Our leadership teaches you a lot, and so it's great that you're able to join the service. I myself found myself in sort of a similar situation growing up where I needed discipline. If I would have stayed in that same town, for me, probably wouldn't have progressed really well in life. And I hear what you're saying, right? Diversity sometimes is not across the entire continental United States, and sometimes we got to look at outside of there for economic opportunities or for growth. So I definitely understand what you're talking about here. So the Navy is something you were graven to, or did you talk to all the recruiters?
All the recruiters except the Air Force, because they don't answer their phones.
They don't.
The Army wanted to put me back in a desk job. I said no, put me out in the front lines. We're not leaving the desk to go back to the desk. If I'm putting the uniform on, we getting some action in. They said no. They said, we're putting you back behind the desk. I said, okay, cool, peace. The Marine Corps said, I had one tattoo at the time. The Marine Corps said, we won't take you. You have a tattoo. I said, all right, cool. And so I gave up after the Marine Corps because if we're keeping it 100, I actually wanted to be a Marine. So I was kind of sad, you know, all right, cool. I got to stay in the Midwest. And the Navy recruiter ended up calling me. He got my information from the Marine Corps recruiter. And I also signed up. I was job hunting at the same time. I signed up for a job on the Crane Naval Base up there. And somehow my resume ended up on a recruiter's there. So the recruiter called me. He was like, I got your information twice. This must be a sign. So he called me up and here we are, you know, so.
No, that's awesome. And like I said, it's okay. I mean, not, you know, I mean, for some reason, which is pretty ironic because Marines, a lot of them get freaking moto tattoos.
Well, it was it was a period of time where there were, they had to release people because there were people getting kicked out to the Marines for tattoos. So actually, when I got back, when I was in boot camp, they changed the instruction, and so they were letting people back in.
It was just your luck and timing. That's probably what it was in that timing. Yeah. So you joined the world's greatest Navy. Did you get to do a couple of deployments all around the world, or tell us about that experience?
You know, so I was on the San Diego, the USS San Diego. We were doing a lot of workups. So we went to RIMPAC. We traveled to various countries, you know, go relieve people here and there. But nothing significant, you know. I think the coolest thing we did was we were chasing Russians up and down the West Coast, but that was it. On that ship, and then I had an accident about close to a year in on that ship, and you know, I was trying to hide it, mask it. You know, I drank the Kool-Aid. I said, no matter what, I'm putting myself behind, and the mission is first. And what's that word? My condition kind of took over, so my injuries took over.
I hear you. And by the way, that is one of the coolest jobs ever if you get to go chase Russians. So I would not sell yourself short at all on that. I mean, that's something I didn't get to do. I would love to have done that besides being in the sandbox my entire career in the Marine Corps. So, but that's really cool. And don't sell yourself short. But I do agree with you that that mission mentality can burn us out, can lead to a lot of mental health challenges. And, you know, burnout is a real thing. I don't know why people don't understand that we're not robots. We are here to, you know, we're humans. And so we also have a way to operate. So I get that. What were maybe some, I mean, you already had the foundation with, you know, your dad kind of forcing you to go into, you know, military type of culture and service. But what are some things maybe that your military experiences that you learned, how do you apply that to your leadership style today? Because I feel like the military gives us a lot of discipline, team building, organizational development.
So what's that word? The crossover. One of the big things I think is when I was attempting to, so I was a track coach also before while I was doing my regular job before the Navy. I was a track coach. I coached one Olympian one indoor world champion. And one of the big things is I've learned that before the Navy, I kind of was like a pushover. I didn't ask questions. And though I had the mission in mind being, this is what needs to happen, I was not taking action to ensure it went from point A to point B. I still have tendencies now, and I still have my some of my shortcomings now, which is more along the lines of I have the vision and I'll try before I pitch it to you. I'm working on making sure things are squared away on the back end. But at least before, I would just sit there and go, I don't know. I don't know. I have the vision. But after the Navy, especially being an LPO, I've learned don't sit there and brood. Don't sit there and think too much about the problem. Ask questions. It's okay to sound, what we consider as sounding like an idiot. It may be, oh man, I never thought about that. Or there's some people that are so happy to share their knowledge. They are actually happy that you ask them, hey, how do you move that rock up the hill without it rolling and hitting me? Things like that. So I've learned it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not be perfect, but ask the questions. Keep that progress going forward versus sitting there wondering, what's the next, what's next. And so I think for me, one of the reasons I think things keep chugging along for me is because when I'm stuck, I ask questions. I ask a lot of questions. And I'll tell you straight up, I'm stuck. I'm not going to sit there and, oh yeah, man, everything's good. Nope. Hey, I'm stuck. This is where I'm stuck. This is what I've got done. Here are the problems. And it helps me to decipher what's wrong, the root cause of the issue, how I got here, and what I did to get here. And then that way it helps you to help me troubleshoot getting out of that sandbox,
I think that that's very powerful. I mean, I'm just going to add a couple of things there. It's, you have a growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. I know people use that buzzword, but at least you're able to adapt and overcome, right? You're not just going to stand there and get shot at and not, cover and move, right? You're going to say, okay, I'm getting shot at. I'm going to go to this direction and move away from the fire, and I'm going to go and find a way to maneuver to get to my target. And that's great. And I think as a leader, or as a business leader, organizational leader, you should always have a very open mind as you progress, because you're not going to know it all. You're going to need to rely on experts, technical people that know how to fix. Because your job as the visionary, as the strategist, the one that's putting the whole things together, you're the orchestrator, right? You're the conductor here. You got to make sure that piece is working together with this piece, and they're all talking to each other. And your job is to make sure that the vision is being executed properly, right? So that's definitely a great job as you as well. And it says a lot about, from a leadership perspective, that you're humble enough to understand that you don't know everything. Trust me, I ask the dumbest questions all the time. And I say, break it down for me, Barney style, as we say. Break it down to me like I'm 5, right? Because there's some smart people that are very technical, and I have no idea what they just said. I said, what does that mean? Is it like the Uber bro for this, or when people are pitching me projects or products? What does that mean, right? Like, I know some other people who have like a salsa business. He was talking about like, it's like agriculture, I'm like, oh, okay. It's a hot salsa that actually it's healthy. It's a healthy salsa. Perfect. That's all you got to say. Don't say anything else, because no one else is going to understand that, right? Not everybody reads. And I think that's very important for people to understand as a leader, why it's important to be humble, to have an open mindset, and ask questions and bring experts along as you are executing your vision and mission for your organization or your division or your corporate team, right? This is something that's applicable. If you're a small business owner, especially, you have to be in the trenches all day and every day. And you got to understand that you're going to have experts all around you as you move forward. So that's great. So when you got out of the service, I mean, you said you coached athletes, you had some athletic background. I do want to talk a little bit about identity change and culture change. I think that's important. I feel like military veterans can relate a lot to athletes. There's some similarities there. Or anybody in life, as you go through a transition, you were sergeant such and such, you were captain such and such, you were who was retired, retired athlete Shaquille O'Neal. You went from big time center Laker player, now you're civilian again. So what was that transition experience like for you, Robert?
So, it's crazy. I went through similar transitions. Leaving the military in Jamaica, military and athlete, being an athlete in Jamaica, and then I went through it again, leaving the service. But it was it was a familiar, it was a familiar turf for me. So it was easy for me to go, cool, fine. The first, I'll talk about the first one more because that one was a lot more impactful than the second one. So for most of my life, since for grade 10 through 9, not grade 10, since 10 years old to 19 years old, most people refer to me as in Jamaica, everybody's a soldier. So they call you Soldier. Hey, what up, Soldier? Whoop to do, blah, 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 we give them a hail, and then it was Soldier to Sprinter. They would be like, what up, Sprinter? So that was my identity. Everyone in my family knew me as the military, super disciplined, stern, I'll beat you up. Or they knew me as the guy that was like always running, sprint, he's on TV, he's traveling here to run, he's traveling here to run, he's working out today, he can't come to a family function, he's busy, so transitioning from that at 19 to 21 was when I came to the US. 21 when I came here, and I was big, bad, powerful Rob. It come to the US in North Dakota. It was a literal identity and culture shock all at the same time. So moving from big city to cows and manure. And it was, I'm sitting there and school was a lot easier. It was just the mental part that was blowing my mind. I had trouble staying in touch with friends. I had trouble staying in touch with family. I had trouble staying in touch with myself. I had a Jamaican roommate and I would lock him out mentally to shut him out constantly. And it took not being in school, it took years to get over that. Years. So I came 21. I was in North Dakota from 21 to about 24. So it was when I got to Indiana where that culture shift, that identity shift caught up with me. And I was like, we're good now. Then a year and a half later, here I'm back in the military. They brainwash you in boot camp. Brainwash didn't quite stick with me because I was considered, they said I was stubborn in boot camp. I was always dancing in boot camp. I was doing extra because I was in the EOD pipeline going into boot camp. So I was doing extra workouts because I was like, this is not hard enough, things like that, of that nature. Got to the fleet. And then in the fleet, it's different. You have to maintain a certain bearing in and out of uniform, on and off the ship, on and off base, and that was who I was. And then as you progress to leadership, that's EN2. Don't call me by my first name. My first name is EN2. Don't call me Robert. Call me EN2. Then I got out. And it hit me. I was warned. It hit me the second time, but it wasn't as bad. I think the only bad part about when I got out of the Navy was not addressing my boss as sir, because he would say, stop it. He would say, every time you call me sir, go home. I said, oh, sir. That was one. Two, it was hard to not wake up and not be lacing up my boots. It was hard to not wake up and go, oh, I got it. Because I was usually the one doing muster. Oh, I got to go do muster. Wait, I don't have to do muster today. They're very relaxed. They're very chill. So it took me about a year and a half. There were other things that I was dealing with for that year and a half. It was very hard to connect with family. I visited my mom. It was very obvious things were off, but she tried her best. Relationships were flip-floppy. But in my mind, I had to find another mission. My other mission was school, because I was working on my doctoral degree at the time, school, and whatever my boss gave me to do it. And it was like very disciplined, like, don't talk to me, I'm working right now, kind of thing. And I think he was scared of me that first year because I was very driven. It was very hard to shake it. And it took, I think it was after graduating my doctoral degree in 2021, about a year later, 2020, halfway through 2022, that's where I kind of, all right. And it took me that long. 2019, I got out to about 2022. It took me a minute to catch my breath and go, it's okay, you know. But you know, you still have people, oh, you're a veteran, thank you for your service, and it's kind of triggering a little bit. But I've learned to twist that to my advantage by being grateful that people are grateful for me, you know.
Yeah, and that's great. And I mean, I got in 2012, and I went back to Afghanistan a couple more times because I like, you know, I like the warlords so much over there. I got to go over there and visit them, right? And you know, it's still definitely a challenge, and I hear a lot. Everything you said, a lot. Most veterans can relate to that transition period, not calling people certain things, not dressing up, you know, lacing your boots, not getting a formation or muster. It is something that impacts us all, and I know a lot of veterans still go through those challenges. At what point were you just kind of like, I think you mentioned, or like kind of just like, all right, cool, I'm cool now. You know, I can now progress in life into this next chapter. Was there like a moment that caused you to kind of just, you know, you can kind of let out some air and kind of decompress a little bit? Like, what was happening for that moment, for that breakthrough that you had?
Um, I had some personal things that I was dealing with at the time, and it was processing that high level, high impactful thing that kind of worked its way down to the core, and I realized, you know, I'm just a human. Um, and then transitioning from one part to another within that transition from that issue, I you know, speaking with this new partner of mine, and she was just like, it's okay to not be okay. You know, I still had some things I was working through, but it was 2022 was a very transformational year for me.
Okay, that's. I mean, yeah, of course, especially with COVID. So the fact that you balanced COVID with transformation, that is
Yeah,
interesting. I feel like that's
yeah.
something that we can all go through. So, uh, pivoting a little bit to the next section, we talked about leadership. Leadership, for those who are listening, I think there's a couple of reports out there that says leadership costs the global economy $9 trillion a year. A lot of it's lack of employees that are not engaged, employees that don't feel like they belong. But the other one that stood out to me was culture. Some people say culture eats strategy, and we hit on that earlier. And I feel like that also extends to the arts and to the music scene as well, right? Culture brings values. It brings guiding principles. What do you stand for? You know, ancient militaries used to have dances before they went and fought, you know, their opponents. You know, in New Zealand, you see that, right? An NBA basketball game, sometimes the New Zealand, you know, they do that, and that's a form of getting themselves motivated and ready to go and attack their opponent. And so I feel like music does play a critical role and extends to the business world and the arts. And so I'm curious because what you just described was, you know, people that go through mental health challenges, especially veterans, and then music, which is something you also had in your foundations in life. So I'm curious how you kind of pivoted to this thing called Dancing Veterans San Diego, because I think it's a brilliant idea. I think it's very innovative. I think it's a way to get veterans in tune back with their body, so you're not robots, right? Like you said, very strict and disciplined and rigid. And you know what's interesting? Before we get to that, If you notice a lot, the common thing, what I realized, a lot of veterans, they actually become celebrities in Hollywood. So what I was thinking, I was like, man, maybe because they've been so rigid their entire life in this box that they were in, once they get out, their creativity, their expression, right? You got Shaggy was a Marine, you know, you got the guy from Star Wars was a Marine, Adam Driver, you know, more Maurice. So it's interesting how they make that pivot after the military to the arts. So tell us a little more about kind of the thought process, this very powerful organization that you founded called Dancing Veterans, and tell us more about it.
So for me, it it really started from just people pinging me a lot. They were pinging me a lot during COVID. So going into COVID, I started to take my dance, you know, because I was a swing dancer before also. I was a swing dancer before my accident. I was very famous for that. Then after my accident, you know, Balboa started that whole they had an organization that used to come out called Soldiers Who Salsa. So I used to go to their class. It was a mandatory rehab. So I would go to the classes. That's where I would learn. Um, and for me, coming from being such a high level dancer to learning again, I was like, come on, bro. But in the midst of learning, I realized there was a lot of rebuilding going on. Not necessarily dancing, but more internal. There was something transforming on the inside. I was very anxious, so I had I had a bad temper. I was the guy. You know, PTSD just kind of just ruined a lot of things for me. You know, so dancing with these guys and all of that kind of broke it up. You know, you go and you blow off the steam, like it's like punching a bag without getting sore knuckles. You know, so COVID came along, and one of the things. So I actually started I saw that there were a lot of I used to do what's that word? Homeless, you know, feeding the homeless a lot. I noticed a lot of the homeless people that we were feeding were veterans. Like not just your normal, I did 4 years and got out, like, oh, as a Navy SEAL, oh, I killed this guy, I killed that guy. You're telling you, and they're the way they're telling the stories, you know they're not lying, you know, and so I was like, how did you end up out here? You know, and they're telling me their stories. So I actually started out in 2019 having fundraisers during Christmas to raise enough funds and give to VVSD, that's the name of it, Veterans Village, the village folks. And so I raised money there, and people saw me dancing there, and they were like, dude, I would have never thought you were that good of a dancer. I was like, me, I just like dancing, man. It keeps me happy, you know. And so people started asking me for private lessons. I didn't pay, didn't charge him. I was like, yeah, let's meet up. You pay the studio fee, I got you. And so I'd meet these people. And it started becoming a lot, especially going into COVID. I was meeting people a lot, you know. So imagine I have work during the day, I have school, and then you have these people hitting me up. Hey, man, class, and so it was getting to be a lot. So what happened was I was having a discussion with another guy, successful veteran entrepreneur, and he was like, you know, you can do this without spending a dime. I said, what do you mean by that? You know, and he explained the whole nonprofit thing. I said, I don't want to step on any toes. He's like, nah, you know, do your research. Did my research, figured out Soldiers Who Salsa was dissolved, spoke with that owner. The owner gave me her blessing. The prior owner, she gave me her blessings. And then I decided to look at the legal parameters that are associated with establishing this organization. And we just kind of went with it, and it worked out. It was timed perfectly to when I graduated my doctoral degree. And so once I graduated, new mission, and so I started to work my way through it. I had an instructor, which he's one of our board members. He actually was the one of the folks that taught me to dance. He's one of our instructors and board members, and so he got on board. We started out. Most of the people I used to teach, they got shy and they were like, "Oh, I don't want to do this in a group setting." You asked for a free class, so um it didn't matter. We were like, there's a bigger cause to this, So we would show up on Sunday mornings. Some Sunday mornings we're just sitting there twiddling our thumbs, but we made it very clear we're here. And so one day, I don't know what happened, where it happened, but the classes blew up and people just started showing up. And so that's when we realized we were still like fiddling with the idea because we didn't have any thought behind it. It was just, we just going to offer classes. And then people started getting good. And we're like, what are we going to do with the good guys? The really good. So we started having levels and all of that. So that's where kind of the inception of it was. I genuinely just wanted to help people. I was just, people would hit me up, hey, I have more classes, or I could, I meet them one-on-one, and then it progressed to a group level. Will it ever go back to one-on-one? Maybe.
I'm sure it will. So the audience, your customer base is primarily veterans, military families, right?
Yeah, veteran
Okay.
service members and their families, but we open it up to the community. Come on in, just pay a little bit of a fee, just because we want to make sure the vets and the service members and their families take care of. What you pay in comparison to the regular dance companies is literally a drop in the bucket.
I agree. And by the way, I think it's an amazing mission, and it's amazing how your story ties into the founding of this nonprofit. So I love that origin story. I love the services that you're providing and the problem that you're attacking, which is PTSD. What we have realized is a lot of times veterans don't seek help right away, and when they do seek help, it might be too late. And so, if you are attacking, if you will, attacking the problem of the mental health challenges that veterans are facing, especially with transition. I mean, if they transition to salsa, good for them, right? Some of us may not want to transition right away to doing salsa or Latin dancing to get us out. Maybe we just want to decompress, right? Like you mentioned, the Navy SEAL. Sometimes maybe they're still there and it's going to take a while to get them out of it. But I like at least how you guys are using it from teaching them how to dance and teaching them how to kind of be in tune again and get in touch with their humanity. I think that is very powerful. And is there any particular veterans in general where when you were when you part of dance that are dancing veterans San Diego, where you're like, I knew this person, who he was or she was, and because they started participating in my nonprofit, they have transformed to X. Like, there any stories in particular?
There are a few, but here's the thing: most of them, they bounce around to different studios, so it's not
Yeah.
necessarily like us. But I'll give you an example. His name is also Jeff. So Jeff is a he's a a pastor. What's that word? What's the name of the rank, that rate or community? The
Chaplain.
pastor. Yeah, he's a chaplain. So Jeff is a chaplain. Jeff joined because Jeff said he wanted to, he just wanted to get out of his shell. He was always with Marines, just wanted something different. He wanted to be able to express himself without feeling confined. And so when Jeff started, Jeff was like, this was in the early parts of our origins. And when Jeff started, Jeff was the only student who would show up for about 7 or 8 months. 90% of the time, he was the only student. And so with that, Jeff kind of transitioned from come into class. So sometimes I'd show up to our local watering hole. This is a regular spot, Tango del Rey. And I'm like, Jeff, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I heard about this. I gotta get into it. And then Jeff's out there doing busting out moves I didn't even teach him. Like, oh, no. About a year and a half after he started with us, he ended up PCSing over to the East Coast. And Jeff's on my Facebook. And so every so often I would see him doing some salsa moves, some bachata. And I said, oh, okay, Chaplain. See you out there. So Jeff's the one of, I think, one of the early on success stories. We have a more recent one with Navy spouse, Marine Corps, Navy, what do you call it? She's a spouse, but she's also the child of a retired Master Chief. And she was going through it when I met her at the VFW. And she started coming to our classes. And now she's out there busting moves. We have a new venue, not us, but like there's a new venue that opened up down in Imperial Beach. She's out there leading the charge. So we have a group chat and she posted a video and she's like, oh, this is me dancing. I'm like, oh, I see you, Alma. Keep going.
That's awesome. No, that's awesome. That's great. I feel like there's probably tons of more. I thought you were gonna say yourself, because you are definitely a success story in yourself. How you describe your early life and the foundations and what you went through. I definitely consider you also a part of that success story, which hence all these other success stories that have come out of your experiences, Robert. And I think it's phenomenal and it says a lot. Are there any particular events of what if veterans want to get involved with Dancing Veterans San Diego? Is there a way to reach you? Is there a way to contact you?
So the easiest way is our website, Dancing Veterans, so 2 S's, San Diego.org. That has everything in there. You send us a contact us message, you'll get to us. If you are on the big social media ones except Twitter, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Dancing Veteran San Diego, exactly as it is. You just type it in. We're the first ones to come up. Send us a message. We have our event coming up. We have our first event of the year coming up next year at Cocina del Monte. This is down in Old Town. This is the first time we have done a venue event since 2022, 2023. We were at Bastards up in Temecula since Bastards. And so we're bringing it back, and we're bringing it back a lot more local because people have been asking for events. And so here we are providing. We still have our classes going on. We're on a break this week. We start back. Our classes are typically also at Infinity Dance Sport Studio in Kearney Mesa. So if you even show up at the studio and ask the owner, hey, when our classes, the owner will let you know. She has our entire schedule. And she will get you where you need to be. She'll give you the information. She will even personally call you and tell you, hey, class is this morning. So yeah.
I love that. And I think all businesses should consider partnering with Dancing Veterans San Diego. If you're looking to bring foot traffic, if you got a great food and you got a great product, why not bring someone like Dancing Veterans to your venue where they can bring an audience, right? Who doesn't love salsa? Who doesn't love bachata? I mean, so I think it's a great. I'm excited. I'm planning to attend myself. What's the date again, Robert, for that event?
January 31st from 4 to 9 p.m. We're going full steam. We're bringing one of the best from the Marine Corps, from East Coast, some East Coast sounds for you. He's one of the big guys up in Temecula, DJ Willette, him and his partner. So Willie and Letty. So you're gonna bring some heat for you right there, and then you got me teaching a class. Yours truly. I'm here to aim to please and to bring you guys the best.
You heard it there. You got Robert's gonna and you got another Marine that's gonna be a DJ. Okay, I like that already. I'm already sold on that. Plus you said some good Mexican food.
Yeah, right? We don't feel safe unless Marines are around. So
that's
I have to surround myself with Marines.
Somebody has to protect you, Robert. I mean, somebody has to watch your back, man. Come on now.
Yeah, here we
What's
go.
going on?
Here we go.
So, Robert, any final thoughts from you? Any takeaways that you want to share with the audience before we wrap this up?
Our biggest takeaway, I would say, is never back down from your dreams. Your dreams, they're there for a reason. Explore them, embrace them, honor them, and stay true to them. Keep pushing, keep driving. There's always a way, so make that way.
You heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. Robert Morgan, thank you again for joining us on the pod. Ladies and gentlemen, we are excited to kick this year off. Thank you so much. TVC signing out.